Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here. Welcome back to another Cardano video. And today I'm sitting down with the Xerberus team once again to go through their latest report, which is Ardana, which was one of the biggest failures on Cardano, but maybe a lot more than a failure when you start to look at the evidence here, and a lot more pointing towards a complete rug and basically stealing from the community. But guys, very welcome back on the channel. Great to have you here. And actually, for anyone who hasn't heard of Xerberus before, we talked maybe 2-3 weeks ago about what you guys are doing, the type of reports you can do. We showed the muesli swap one at the time, and then this is a lot bigger. This goes a lot deeper. So guys, very welcome, and I'll let you give the brief introduction to yourselves, and then we'll get into the real meat of what's going on here.
Thank you so much, Paul. It's great to be on again. And we're teasing already the last time that we have another bigger report coming out, and this is the one now. And you described it perfectly. I think that, you know, what we're doing at Xerberus is to help the community to understand better what is happening and whom they can trust and who they should not trust. And I think this report is a statement to exactly that. And yeah, super that you have us here. I'm Simon. I'm one of the co-founders, and well,
I'm Noach, the other co-founder. Yeah, I don't know. My background's in physics, so I'm really excited to show you guys what we have today. Go ahead, Simon.
Yeah, great. Actually, and I will leave the link down below if anyone wants the bigger overview of what you guys are doing. But for this one, I'll let you take it away, Simon.
Yeah. So what we'll do today is we walk you through our report, because we know it had a lot of pages and not a lot of people are using it, reading it completely, and so we just want to take the chance that, you know, live on camera, that you see us talking about it, and I will just start right in it. So I'm sharing my screen now, and then you can see in a moment the report. So all our reports start with a disclaimer, which is important, right, guys? We're good at what we're doing, but we are also not perfect, right? It can always be that we make a mistake, and this is what we write officially in our disclaimer. And really take that serious, guys. A lot of people trust us, and we are so honored to have your trust. But, you know, always be also critical to what we say. I think that's a very important part of our mission. Be always critical. We have a catalyst proposal, but that's not that important right now. I just jump into the summary, and then we'll pick that apart. So what we do in this report, right? We will look into the Ardana team, and the Ardana team is quite a diverse set of people. The CEO of Ardana was Ryan, the person that most people will remember from the community events and from the Twitter space in the end. And these guys, they managed to raise $9 million. And what is interesting, the first thing that comes to mind is that this fundraising event happened on Ethereum. And we will look into a lot of Ethereum transactions in this report. And they did that to build the Ardana exchange. And we found now a cluster of wallets that we can directly connect to Ryan. There's this, for example, one wallet which sits at the center of all of it, and that we are paying employees and you know, expenses for the Ardana system. That's how we could really track it down. We also see really where the fundraising money came from which investors. And, you know, as we found this cluster of wallets, right, and we were looking, okay, where did the money go, right? $9 million is a lot of money. And one thing that we really found that was completely shocking is that a huge amount of the money that was invested in Ardana never made it into an expense account to be invested into developer expenses or building something, but it was really invested into highly volatile coins. So they moved out of stable coins and into a large part into Ethereum, just into Ether, but in a lot of very obscure coins as well. And when you know the timeline, the fundraising was at the end of 2021. And the investing happened, and we will go into this timeline exactly in a moment with data people, was that they had all of this money out in very volatile coins directly at the end of the bull market, when we really went into the bear market and when things started to crash. And so they had a gigantic position out there in a whole huge variety of coins, and they lost up to $4 million on decentralized exchanges. We assume, it's very important, we assume that he probably, or the administrator probably also made similar trades on centralized exchanges. We can't really look into centralized exchanges. And because they lost so much money, they had to get the money back at one point. And this was really, so this $4 million losses, we're fairly quickly in the journey of Ardana, and we see from March 2022, we see this extraction happening on the Cardano ecosystem. So there were massive amounts of Ardana token, or which are called DINA, where we're sold first, sent to centralized exchanges and later on to decentralized exchanges. And we see that extracted up to $6 million worth of capital out of our ecosystem. And this is the story in short. We will later also tell you exactly when Xerberus would have told you that something is off. So we looked at our alerts when we would have sent you alerts, and it's really sad. We would have sent several alerts in the lifetime of Ardana that you could have used to stay safe from it. But I think I said too much. Ready? Noach, do you want to data? But you want to start and just look into the fundraising diagrams and show people them.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll. It's just before you get into the diagrams. It's crazy that what it looks like after going through the report. And now you're going to go through more here. Is that basically they've done their fundraise, and rather than use that funds to develop the project that people invested into, they went off and gambled on shitcoins and lost because it was coming towards the end of the bull market, and they lost out, and then started to basically sell off tokens, dumping them on the community, where that should have never happened. If this was managed properly, then it's just crazy. But I'll let you guys get into the details, and I'll give my thoughts later too.
Yeah, actually, Simon, can you go back to sharing your screen so we can just keep going through the report? Because I won't go through all the graphs as intensely as this graph I have out here, because it's very, very busy, and we'll talk about it in a bit. But if you just want to share your screen, and we can go back to the report, and you can show the investor. Yeah. So first of all, let's just go start here. Actually, it's interesting to note that the Ardana rug pull date didn't correlate with any sort of massive price fluctuation. I mean, yes, on the day there was something like 10% loss, but if you're looking at the price over time, a lot of the liquidity was extracted much earlier. And we'll go into that about when it was extracted and how it was extracted a little bit later on. But I mean, by the time the rug pull came around, there was not much to rug left. So keep going down. So anyways, going back to the beginning of the what Simon was talking about with the investors, they had 3 investing rounds. They had 2 seed rounds, and then 1 token. What's it called? IDO, initial token. ICO. Sorry.
The DEX offering. Yeah.
Yeah, ICO, initial token offering. Keep going down, Simon. Keep going down. Yeah, there. And what we see here when we're looking at the investments is that the first seed round they got at the beginning, Simon, correct me if I'm wrong, was August 15th, right?
Yeah, then it started. It started very, very early. No, September. Sorry.
It was a lot of like small addresses, or like addresses that were not named or not labeled or anything like that. And it really kind of shows this kind of shows how investments work in general, right? Like the first round is pretty small. And then all of a sudden, if you open up a next round, there will be a lot more people who are much more interested. You can see like in the second round, we have like 3 Arrows Capital. I think like Pico Capital or something like that also is there. And a lot, significantly much more investors in that round. And then lastly, we go down to the ICO and we get another $1.5 million, give or take, from that as well. These ICOs were people who were only able to invest up to $500 at a time. Yeah, Simon, do you have anything else you want to say about the initial funding? So also another thing is Dana claimed they earned $10.8 million in funding. However, what we saw on chain is that they earned something more like 9.7 million, and a small fraction of that was in Ethereum, about 800 Ethereum. And then if you take that Ethereum and you convert it, and if you can convert it into stable coins and then count that stable coin conversion plus the Ethereum plus the whole thing, it actually our 9.7 comes to 10.8. So what we think happened is basically they double counted the swap for Ethereum before they're investing when they said 10.8, when in reality it was something more towards 9.07. Simon, you have anything else you want to say?
Yeah, which also gives you kind of a feeling what kind of reporting or what kind of people manage this entire operation. If they cannot even if there's a miscounting of how much money you raise, it gives a feeling of how careful people are looking in how they manage their money. There's one other thing that I want to add. This is really that this was a whale coin. This was a VC coin, right? Like this year down here, the ICO, that is what the community got. All the other inflows are from whales, and of course corresponding to that the token outflows. Which shows that nobody. It's really hard sometimes to determine good projects from bad projects, and even the biggest investors with the biggest brands make mistakes.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of big names invest into this, and I think that brought even more people in when they seen the caliber of that was investing. Now, I know you mentioned some names there that have completely failed and gone away now, but at the time they were very big names in the space, and even Charles's own investment company got into Ardana at the time due to what they were building and how they put it forward, but all wasn't what it seemed at the time.
Yeah. And there's one other thing that I want to add as we hover over here is this one kind of like little tiny bit of hope in this entire thing, because a few people reached out to us afterwards, engineers who actually worked on Ardana, and they were what they dropped us was one message, and I haven't checked everything, but they said, and it appears to be true, that they developed some stuff that is still, as open source things, that they, had a good part in developing Plutarch and similar tools that, are till today used within Cardano dApp development. So I think that the only thing that when you look at that and you know that all of it is lost is like at least some of it, not a big part, but a tiny part of it actually was used to build something. If that is, 1.82 million, probably. Yeah, 1.82 million, which again, it's a ninth of what I raised. Shall we look at the wallet complex at the next one, or directly how to spend it?
Yeah, so go for it. So yeah, basically, the investors was primarily on Ethereum, and for the most part, it all came in between August and beginning of 2022, I would say. So now when we're trying to make connections on the chain and we're doing all our Xerberus like trademark type things. What we did is Simon was kind of mentioning it earlier, there was this cluster of wallets we noticed that are closely affiliated with Ardana's team, or the, how do you say it, Simon? The, you say like the
treasure chest wallet. The administrator, yeah.
That's a good word. Or the administrator of these wallets were all the same administrator. So first, if you see on the very far right here, we have the fundraising wallet. That's the wallet we just looked through right now. That's where all the $9.7 million came into. And the question would then be, okay, so what did they do with that funding? Primarily, they sent it to exchanges, primarily Coinbase, with a little bit going to Kraken and Gate.io. Also, it should be noted that the money going into Gate.io closely correlates with when they actually listed the token there. So probably the money they sent to Gate.io was like listing fees and all this kind of extra bureaucracy type things. However, something like, I don't remember exactly, something like multiple millions went into Coinbase, and 3.25 million went into proxy wallet number 1. Now, proxy wallet number 1 then took those tokens, switched them out for a token called COVAX, CVX, then transferred that CVX from $3.2 million worth of CVX from proxy wallet 1 to the old wallet, with the old wallet then directly sent it to this wallet we call the target wallet. Now, why do we call this wallet the target wallet? This wallet seems to be the wallet that was in charge of Ardana, in a way that this is the wallet that funded that in the development that Simon was talking about earlier. This wallet has also been confirmed by, we talked to like some people who worked for Ardana and some team members and community members. This was the same wallet that paid them. So they would get like, if they made like some sort of contribution or something like that, and they got like 500 USD, this wallet would be the one that was paying them for those works. So then this target wallet, so then we see about, Simon, maybe you can scroll to the flow graph with the wallet in it.
Before we move to the flow graph, I want to add two other things. So one thing that really stood out is that there were NFTs being bought, and quite expensive one. One was the CryptoPunk, and we don't have the proof for that because the Twitter disappeared, but it is being accused that Ryan, the CEO of Ardana, was posting these NFTs. And what really stands out is that the first NFTs that he was buying directly from the fundraising wallet. I find that quite outstanding, because imagine you raise $9 million, you have a wallet, and the first thing that you do, you plug that wallet into your, into your MetaMask, plug it into OpenSea and buy some NFTs. I think these are moments where I'm just, I look at that, and also as, we of course co-founders of Xerberus, and we also think, but building how, how do you budget for a company and everything, and it's remarkable. It's it's a thing where you think, okay, that it says something about whoever was the administrator and did that. Buying an NFT for $100,000 is maybe not the first thing you should do after raising that amount of money. And then we also see this target wallet, and yeah, we call this one the old wallet because, as we understand it, whoever administrated all of these wallets, probably this was the oldest wallet that person owned. There is some, yeah.
I can go into that, Simon.
Yep.
Ryan said that he made when this whole thing came out and he was doing these Twitter spaces, he mentioned that he made a lot of money from Ethereum, and that he was a lot of the money that was going into Ardana was his own personal money. From our analysis and from what we can see from these two wallets, a person started trading at the early 2020 and was reasonably successful. They got something, at the height of their success, I think they got something like 400K from basically nothing. But that 400K had shrunken down to about 200K before the start of Ardana. And then that 200K went from that old wallet into the target wallet we're looking at. So when we call this old wallet, it looks like that's where his original funds came from. When he was talking about the money he made on Ethereum, I would guess it to be closer to $200,000 to $400,000, not multiple millions like he implied.
Yeah, it was made sound like on them Twitter spaces, these are the ones that happened after all this. He was saying how he was funding the project and he never took any funds out of it. But a lot of what you're going through now, or what you will show on the flow as well, is that he was getting, him or whoever was the administrator, was getting a lot of funds back out of this by dumping the Dana token. And it's crazy to think they raised all this funds. To me, it just screams a legal case here, that there's criminal activity here, that you raise funds for a certain activity, which is developing the platform. I know that them term sheets are going to have loads of different terms, but I doubt one of them is allowing you to trade the token to get involved in the curve wars and end up losing out on buying all these tokens or buying NFTs. So it's just crazy.
Yeah, you're right, but I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second here. He did have reasonable success, right? He made, from what I can tell, multiple tens of thousands of dollars into multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars. And this was right before the success of Dana. So maybe in some way this wasn't at the beginning. Maybe he wasn't trying to do these token swaps and things like this maliciously, but he was trusting that what happened in the crazy DeFi bull market is going to happen again. And he hedged his bets inappropriately and made and overextended his bets because of what he saw in the past of his own experience. I mean, everyone hates it when they say it, but he was a young kid, right? He was like 21 years old, and all of a sudden he just got dumped $10 million into his personal bank account. So maybe it started not malicious. Maybe it started with the best intentions. But as you mentioned, when we go into the Cardano side, I think that story changes a bit, especially on the Cardano side.
Yeah. One last point that I want to highlight is that you both said it, but I think it needs to be directly said, right? Like if we assume that this where's the private wallet of the administrator and this was the professional wallet of Ardana, right? Funds were directly mixed up between personal funds and business funds, and any accounting standard and any moral standard, and that is something that shouldn't happen, right? Like the $10 million were not in his personal bank account, right? It was a shared business that had a vision and had a mission, and it's not your private treasury. And I think this is really what we see here, which it doesn't leave a good taste. So we will talk about the proxy wallets, but we'll talk it on the other graph, because this is how a lot of money was lost. Noach, I scroll down if you don't have anything more to add to
scroll down to the flow graph of this.
Yeah, I can.
No, that's it.
Next one, okay. Yeah, this one, yeah.
All right, so things are gonna get a little bit busy here, and I apologize. I'll try my best to explain what we're seeing here, and then we'll move forward from there. So first and foremost, what you're looking in front of you, you see all these, you see these purplish to yellowish bars going from right to left, and you see these gray bars going up and down. The gray bars going up and down signify individual wallets, and the height of those bars is how much is like the balance or the amount that it sent out. So if you look on the very far left, you see there's a little thing that says funding wallet, and with an arrow pointing down to that gray box. That bar is the $9.7 million that it sent out. And then how did it send it out? It sent it from left to right. So wallets on the left send to wallets on the right. And the color signifies time. So it's a little bit hard to adjust to it, and you'll get used to it. But so like darker purples are later back in time, and then the brighter yellows are more recent. So what we see here is these darker purples coming out of the funding wallet. This was right around when he got the funding, like exactly. Like he would get the funding in. He would send, for example, there's a very thick dark purple line that goes from funding wallet to the Coinbase. That was on September 20th, if I'm not mistaken, for 220K USDT, which he sent to Coinbase, and then his funding wallet got back 220K 15 minutes later from Coinbase. So what we're able to do is we're actually able to track. This is like maybe a Xerberus show, but we track flows even through sexes and dexes by looking at the times and the volumes and the amounts and then the relations between wallets. We can see like what he put onto Coinbase and then what he took off Coinbase right afterwards.
So he was basically just washing the money to a degree through Coinbase, thinking that when you deposit to a centralized exchange, it all gets put into one wallet then. But if you pull them funds out then straight away again, then obviously you can look at the amounts and it's...
Yeah, and you can get like a statistical closeness, right? Like we can't track these specific ones through Coinbase by the UTXO trails like we're used to, but we can get statistical percentages that are satisfactory enough for us to be able to say, okay, yeah, it's probably this, or if it's not this, then like the next best thing is basically like going to like a court of law, right? Like there's no need to look further than this. So anyways, yeah. So he pushes a lot of money through Coinbase and Gate.io that end up in his wallet, through Coinbase especially. And then also there's this bright white line that's labeled X. This was that 3.25 million that I was talking about that he switched to like CBX and then he sent to his own wallet. And what Simon was mentioning earlier about the convolution of funds, here, this is the most clear example without a doubt with UTXO trails and with everything that he sent from the investing wallet to his own wallet, $3.25 million. That's like 33% of the entire funding that Ardana got. And that's 33% that he's convoluting between his own personal funds and the funds of the company. It's I don't know, it could be dangerous, right? It could be morally, it could be hard to have that kind of money in your own personal account and not accidentally use it to like buy NFTs or things like that, which he does. And then we have, so Simon has this mouse over. He sends a little bit of money to like, for example, he sends like 25K to FTX, which again, he in his Twitter space, he said that that a lot of Ardana's money was lost on FTX, and we can't find anything more than 25K that he lost on FTX. He might have sent money to Coinbase and then from Coinbase sent to FTX and then lost that money because that connection we don't have. However, we can't find any significant information or data that he ever even used FTX as one of his main sexes. His main sexes during Ardana at the beginning was Coinbase, and then towards the end when he was rugging was Gate.io and Kraken by far. These smaller dexes he barely ever used. So I don't know. I find it hard to believe if he lost any money on FTX. So yeah, that's the tokens flowing into his wallet. Is there any questions up until now? I feel like
no, I think I'll let you keep going through it.
Great. Okay. So now the question is, this is how he gets his money. And the question is, what does he do with this money, right? Well, first and foremost, he spends over half of it. He sends to two Genosis wallets. These are like multi-sig custody wallets. Simon, am I not mistaken?
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the, and why two? Because one of them is on the Arbitrum is on the Arbitrum chain, and one of them was on the Ethereum chain. So he switched to an Arbitrum token and then staked those tokens basically in this multi-sig wallet, and did the same on the Ethereum side as well. These two tokens went to zero, so that money was basically lost in these accounts, and then the money that was left back in at the very end went back into his wallet, which he then sold off for other tokens. So everything basically, Simon, you want to maybe talk a little bit more about the Genesis wallets actually before I go on?
Yeah, so the Gnosis wallet is really, we don't know to which infrastructure it belongs, but Gnosis is in kind of an infrastructure saying that it's being used by a lot of, trading engines and other things. So probably with some sort, and we also see a lot of trading behavior happening right there and then, and we will, when we scroll down further, list all the losses and just talk a bit about that. But he moved the money in some kind of trading infrastructure, right? Like there, it could be copper or Fireblocks or something, and was trading like a madman from there. Sorry when that sounds emotional, but it's just like when we will go over the losses, and he made some pretty strong bets, and as it seems, he also committed things in time-locked staking contracts, right? And imagine you lock down a few $1 million in a time-locked staking contract when every price is collapsing. So it was very, very risk-loving, to say the least. Noah, let's talk about these two ends for the moment before we move over to the table.
Yeah. So moving down from the eventually traded back to Target Wallet and sold, we go to this wallet that's labeled to Circle. We talked to some of the Ardana C-level members, I guess I could say. I don't know like how much we want to, but they said that this was the money that was used to pay developers for Ardana. And to be honest, it seems likely because their monthly batches of something like $230,000, which is about a team of 10 to 15 Haskell developers. So I mean, if he was paying someone, if someone was building these things like Plutarch and these things like what Simon mentioned earlier, these sums make sense, right? You're getting paid monthly. It's a lump sum being sent to contractors, because as we didn't mention it, but every C-level position except for Ryan was a contractor, right? So they were paid by this contracting situations like we see here. And then finally, lastly, we have this possible remaining value. And also notice that this possible remaining value is bright yellow, which means it was very recent, this money. I think it was something like 50 days ago as of recording this video, give or take.
Yeah, I was just looking at that before this, and actually if I open another screen, they funded that wallet 46 days ago from recording this. So they're still active, still moving around. And when we get to Dana, you guys were saying about them even selling Dana tokens fairly recently they haven't gone away.
Yeah. And that's really what's we can talk about this a bit later, but that's what's really sad. And I think that's one of the things we really want to highlight as well, is that when like this, there was just recently we had this whole meme coin season, and people were trading Dana as kind of a meme as well. And when you do that, when you trade rug pull tokens, the opposite party of that trade is the founders, and they are directly, it's like the definition of exit liquidity. When you're playing with these kind of like these mysterious tokens or these rugged tokens, you are exit liquidity. And we'll go and in a bit further down, we'll show that exactly how you are exit liquidity. So anyways, just to finish up this graph, the possible remaining value closely aligns with how much money he got. Some of the money he got from Cardano, that it more aligns with the times he got that, when he got that money versus the times he was rugging on Cardano. It's closely related, and we'll go into that a bit. But then so then also this wallet was seeded by his. Sorry, hold on. Let me go back. So the possible remaining value, how do we understand, or how do we associate that with the administrator of this wallet? First and foremost, it sent the seed money. So it sent 0.03 Ethereum to that wallet. And in Ethereum, the person who seeds the wallet is really a tell of who owns these wallets, because you have to have some sort of money to have gas fees, and that money has to come from somewhere. And where you're just going to randomly come up with Ethereum, it doesn't happen, right? So you have to have someone to send it to initially who knows that wallet for the first person. And the first person to know who this new possible remaining value wallet was Ryan, and he sent 0.03 Ethereum. And then he gets a whole bunch of money from Kraken that closely relates with the rug on Cardano that we'll go into in just a second here. So Simon, I don't know if you want to say anything else about this.
I just want to highlight, guys, this is what was spent on the Cardano, on building Ardana, right? This buyer, this is always lost on shitcoins, and this is what he still has. And as a builder, it makes me almost angry, because it's like, I mean, Data was just saying that how much he spent like per month, so $200,000. That's a huge payment bill. Like, not a lot of startups can pay every month $200K just on paying the employees. So there was a lot of money being moved, and yet instead of going down and really cutting costs and really building a hardcore core team, right, that you could rely on, that he believes in the system, right, he just chooses to keep $1 million for himself. So I think this is really it's sad. Yeah, this is what I feel about when I see that. It's sad because there was a lot of potential, there was a lot of trust here, and it burned away. And whoever administrated his wallet in the end just thought about himself. I think this is a good moment before we look into the Cardano side, really to look at how much money was lost, just to have some numbers here, and then Datable, let's after that look into the Cardano side, right? I think that's a good plan. So we don't have to wait too much. Don't have to spend too much time on this table because it accumulates to in total about $4 million in losses. There are also some gains, so the $4 million losses are the balance. So it's like, you know, like after accounting for all the wins, he still loses $4 million.
The net sum is minus 4 million. So he lost
the net sum.
Yeah. He lost 4 million on all these trades. He put in 4 million more than what he took out from all the net trades of all these trades. And yeah, like someone was saying, like you can see here, there's like for example, if you go to the very top, yeah, see there's this DPX and CVX. These were the tokens that were put in those Genesis wallets, and they were just that entire sums were lost. So that's 1.34 million and another 400,000 that were just lost. And then also our DPX is like some sort of like wrapped version of the DPX, and again that's another 2.4 million that was lost there. The losses were substantial, and yeah, and I don't know what else to say about this table.
I just want to highlight that this administrator lost $1.3 million on a single trade. You know, like, I mean, this is just it's you know, Sam Bankman-Fried style activities, right? Like it's really yeah.
You can also see that he bought 3,713 of those tokens and sold 3,800. So he even got some extra tokens from like staking and these types of things, but it just wasn't enough. So he sold the same the equivalent. He bought and sold the equivalent amount of tokens, but just at different times. And because of that equivalencies, he lost the 1.3.
Yeah. I think we can. I don't know, Paul. Do you want to add anything to this table?
I think we've talked a lot about the funding and the Ethereum side and where the transactions were. Probably be good to move into the actual selling of Dana on-chain for Cardano then.
Yeah. Okay, great. So yeah, this is the graph. Simon, if you want to switch the share screens, I can share mine and kind of go over it. So these graphs, they're actually we're working on implementing these into our front end. I mean, they look a bit ugly right now and stuff like that, but I'm not worried about how they look for now. It's just as long as they're functional. So these are available if anybody wants to look through them themselves, but this isn't just some sort of nice graph that I've made for people to look at. You can actually go in through here and verify every individual transaction, every individual wallet, how much it came in, comes out. You can also like move them around to make this cluster of a mess into something that's a little bit nicer. But basically, what we see on Cardano is something that looks a bit more malicious than what we saw on Ethereum. Like if Ethereum was just some sort of silly young trader, on Cardano it's much more of a systematic rug. For example, these are the we didn't really go into the tokenomics, but basically the tokenomics have really aggressive vesting schedules. So those vesting schedules are like this wallet here and this wallet here and this wallet here, which a wallet that's associated with Ryan was skimming money off of those vesting contracts and selling them immediately to MinSwap, which would be over here. And this was happening just throughout the life of Ardana. Nothing too special here. I mean, maybe it's just a company taking profits. Every team everywhere always sells, so it's nothing to be really concerned about. What of note, we mentioned earlier that he sent a lot of money to Gate.io during the listing. He also sent a lot of Dana during to the listing here. This is Gate.io right here. But then, so yeah, so basically like this whole spider structure we can see here, all these wallets attached to this one wallet. This was like basically just Ardana or the administrators of the wallets kind of skimming profits off of vesting schedules or skimming profits off of small different delegations of the tokenomics, which is unfavorable. And I mean, like eventually we'll have metrics for these types of things on our website, like how much is the team skimming or how much is the team actually selling per project. But it's nothing really like horrible. What's worse is when we actually start looking at these, if you look in the paper itself, we call these extraction events. For example, this was during the rug pull itself. This was 2022. It started in November 24th. Yeah, so there's the rug pull right there. So during the rug pull itself, the Treasury wallet sent 3 million Dana to Gate.io to sell off. So this extraction event right here happened during the rug pull. So everyone was rugging, and while Ryan was saying there's no more money left, Simon, if you have the report, can you look up what this is? There's an arrow here that says extraction event with a number, and then there's a table somewhere that gives you the amount of money he got from it.
Yeah, which is the number?
I don't know. It's this one. I can tell you. Just give me 1 second. Number 1.
Yeah, number 1 is $400,000.
So during the rug itself, he got $400,000. However, there were other instances of him pulling out money. And these instances happened, for example, after the rug pull itself. Simon, can you tell me how much, hold on. Can you tell me how much extraction event number 2 was?
Over $1 million. A little bit over $1 million.
So yeah, so these are dated at February of this year, of 2023. So 4 months or 5 months or however many months that February is after November, he pulled out 21 million Dana, or what was it, Simon? 3-point-something million?
Sorry, I think you must have been wrong, because like this is the March 2022, the $1 million number. Give me the date that you're looking for, because it's not the number 2.
It goes from, let me see here, from basically the rug pool all the way through February of 2023.
February. I don't have it. Okay, that's the number 4. So this goes from March 2022 till February 2023, and we have a total. So in this entire instance, $3.8 million. But this is, of course, almost a year.
So yeah, so just to really highlight, Ardana rugged in November, and then 5 months later was able to extract another $3.8 million out of our ecosystem. Right, this was money that was pulled out of the Cardano ecosystem that we will never see again. And I mean, imagine how much we could do. Like, how much is the Catalyst funding? It's like something like 50 million. So we're playing with something here like 5% or something like that of the or 10% of the whole Catalyst funding that was just extracted, never to return to the ecosystem. And this is really why it's important for us as Xerberus and for what we're doing here, is because we want to try to keep that money in the ecosystem, keep pushing the money towards the projects that will keep it within the ecosystem and make the ecosystem grow and become more beneficial, and not allow for things like this to happen. So yeah, anyways, he got 3.8 million in
that's in dollars, is it, or ADA? $3.8 million.
It's in dollars.
Dollars.
Yeah. It's in dollars, yeah. So it's actually the entire Catalyst fund right now, because the entire Catalyst fund right now,
$5 million, isn't it?
It's $5 million. So whoever's the administrator of that wallet, Rock, just casually the entire Catalyst fund out of the Cardano ecosystem. And you know how much projects are fighting for that money, right? One of them is ourselves, right? But this money reinvested, if it would have stayed in our ecosystem, it would have helped many projects, right? So this is why we gotta, like, as a community, we gotta stick together and stop such projects early on.
Yeah. Yeah, and if anybody has any questions about that, where we're getting this $6 million from, I went through each individual transaction. Just to be sure, I went through each and every individual transaction, calculated with also like MinSwap has a really nice UI where they can tell you exactly how much it's swapped for. I also verified it with our own swapping and our own processes. Yeah, but I went through every single one of these transactions and calculated this entire thing by hand. And then I had to look at the price for ADA by hourly, so that there's some slippage when it comes to maybe he bought it at a cheaper price during that hour, but whatever, it's very close to that number. Very close to $6 million that he pulled out of our ecosystem, 5 million of which, or 4 million of which was pulled out after the rug pull.
Yeah, I want to show another graph now, if that's fine.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I think it's just
this is the worst graph.
I think Simon just kicked himself out of the call when he went to share there, so I'm sure he'll come back in a second.
Unfortunate. Okay, let me see if I can pull up the
and just say for people watching this back as well, is that it's fine for teams to actually sell off tokens. That's part of it. Generally, there is part of the tokenomics are assigned to development. See Simon coming back in here. So it's fine for that to be sold off, and part of what was sold off here probably was that, but there's no way that the amount of funds that were taken out could have been what was assigned for development. There was a lot more in that. And when you see the interconnection of wallets, if it was just the team selling off what is for development, you would see one straight line really would be from the vesting into the team development wallet, and then that getting sold off at that stage. And I'm sure a lot of them would sell it off on a centralized exchange because you need stable coins at the minute. We're getting there with Cardano, but at the minute, a lot of teams are going to want USDT or USDC or something like that. So that would be a straight line. It wouldn't have all of these interconnections, and it's that would be just to highlight that it is okay for teams to sell, and that's part of it. But what's happening here is a lot more than that.
You're totally right. It's really important to highlight every single team sells, right? This is just a part of the system, and this is a part of the thing happening. So when you see team members selling off large portion of their tokens before jumping and jumping on Twitter and saying, guys, look, this is a rug pull, maybe consider how much is other teams selling, or how much is this team selling in comparison to other teams. And that's really what we're also trying to give to our users on our website and stuff like that. But yeah, everybody does it. So it's nothing out of the ordinary. What's out of the ordinary is that so much money was liquidated after the fact. And that's not normal, right? Like, teams should not be making profits after they've officially declared that their company will no longer make anything.
Yeah, but I want to try to show this time the one part about founder selling, which is really, it made me really angry when I found it. I will try not to share without rugging. This is cool. Let me try it again, okay? So this is also directly out of our report, and is point 7.3 before the rug. And this is one wallet. So this is the balance in Dana token, and we believe this to be a founder wallet. And what you see is, right, I mean, you can argue about founders being allowed to sell down tokens very early on. I think for some project that's okay. I think for a project like Ardana that technically still had $9 million, it is questionable. But here you see that there is the first time that something's pulled out of that particular wallet is like shortly before April, and then you see a lot going down. You can't see it, but that's September, right? We all know that in November there was the original rug, and when you actually look down, it was put in another proxy wallet, which is this one, where you see basically we look zoomed in on these two transactions going in.
The missing chunks from that first wallet are these chunks in this new wallet that then he takes from his original wallet, enlarged sums into the smaller wallet, which the smaller wallet then sells off on MinSwap when these smaller sums here, like 50K, 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 something like that.
And you see how aggressive that is. And actually, this is, I just want to make that clear, right? This is 2 months before the official rug pull. So somebody knew that in September was already that. And when we look at Ethereum, we know that in September he was basically already bankrupt. So there was a long stuff happening that, of course, only very few people knew. And when you actually look what had happened to price, right? We talk about September 11, literally one year ago, right? Dana wasn't that, there was still a price, right? And then it in November then at one point then the rug happened. So I think it's this one here, right? This is then the rug when it really rugged, when it officially rugged, when Ada Whale made the post. And this is really this time already in September when he just when the administrator just keeps dumping his own tokens straight out of his founder wallet, 3-4 hops away from the treasury wallet. And this is really what we would say this is a rug pull, right? Like, this is what people mean when they use that word, right? It's not kind of a mislabeling of a term, right? It says, okay, somebody pulls the plug and empties out, liquidates the project. And this is, I think this is really hard. Yeah.
It should be noted that as of today, something like 60% of the tokens are sitting on Gate.io, and the treasury wallet is completely emptied. So I mean, like, this was a rug pull from like fully rugged, basically the entire tokens that he was able to rug. Also, we didn't really go into it, but he also rugged back in July of this year. So just 4 months ago, he also pulled out another like 50K. There wasn't much left, but it was basically, it looked like he was just kind of like gathering up whatever was left, and just getting out the last, like squeezing out the last little bit of liquidity he could from Cardano right before he left. But yeah, it's empty now. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I suppose one thing on this is that this highlights the transparency of the blockchain. We didn't see it at the time. We can look back, and this can all be presented if someone is going to take it further. A lot of this can be presented to show what actually happened. But with Xerberus and what you guys are building, there would have been alerts earlier than this. So when he started sending, or when the administrator started sending funds to buy up other tokens and start trading with the funds that were raised, that's when we would have started to get the initial reports, was it?
Yeah, I can just go through them real quick. So remember that Ardana rugged on November 24th, 2022. However, there was, like, as we've gone through here, there was obvious signs of things going wrong beginning, right? He was all of a sudden moving funds in his Ethereum wallet to his private wallet. He was switching them out for tokens that were more volatile. There was, now that we're looking back, like, there was obvious things you could see that would have alerted the users beforehand. And this is really what we're trying to do at Xerberus, is we're trying to get a system going, a system that is unbiased, that just lets you know when something's happening, right? That lets you know when something's happening, gives you the details, gives you the data, that then we can all have a good discussion about it, right? Because I'm sure if instead of just the fudsters, if you will, on Twitter were yelling about Ardana being a rug, if instead of them just yelling about it, instead of them coming up and saying, hey, listen, I just tracked 30% of the funding for Ardana, and I just saw it all got lost on these tokens. This is something we should talk about as a community to decide if we want to continue supporting or if we want to try to, like, get back our investments, or however you want to work it. So anyways, yeah, what are these alerts and when do they come around? The first one was in September 22nd, 2021. This is like 5 days after they got invested. This is when he started convoluting his money with his private money and the investor money. January 2nd, March 3rd, throughout May through September, we got like many small alerts the whole time. Nothing like these huge alerts earlier, but we all the time, like, imagine just one project getting alert after alert after alert of team selling. Money through sexes have been, like, money washing through sexes. This is another just 5, 6 or 7 months of signals that would have happened. And then also leading up to the rug pull, we do risk scores, right? So our risk score was, they were at like a BBB level, so like the lower end of the B class. And they dropped down to C and C class like about 6 hours beforehand. So we also had all these warnings, but also the risk rating, like 6 hours before the rug pull itself, like this major conversion, and dropped them down 3 ratings, like 6 hours or so before the rug pull itself. So if we were around and if we would have had our full like if we were like flexing all our muscles, you know, like all the Xerberus muscles, we would have been able to stop. We feel like we would have been able to stop this multiple times before the community got hurt, and then definitely we would have been able to stop the extra 4 million coming out of the ecosystem afterwards.
Yeah. So what form would this take for the community? So for me, is there like a dashboard? Do you track every project, or is it certain projects that you will be tracking, or because the number of projects is growing all the time?
So like, yeah, the ways we're doing this kind of stuff is it's a lot of data theory and data analysis, but basically what it comes down to is the more the merrier, right? The more data points we get, the more tokens we look at, the more accurate our system becomes. So like for right now, we're looking into maybe like 50 or so tokens on Cardano, but as soon as we expand a little bit and hopefully with some help from the Catalyst funding we've applied for, some things like this, we can expand that to all tokens on Cardano. So every token on Cardano would have some sort of these alerts and these risk ratings. And now, what are these risk ratings and these alerts? Just to go over them briefly, we basically give you signals or maybe Simon, maybe you can go over this.
Yeah. So I want to let me take over. So to make it very practical, right, Paul? You can go on a platform and just check out what kind of, is that a good token or a bad token? And we do that on the base scale of a very known rating system, which you know from the credit rating agencies, which is a AAA to D, and D is a fair, it's a default, is a rug token. Ardana is right now a D. And now what you can do is, right, you can look at and say, okay, this one token has a AAA rating, and this other token that I like just has a AA rating, so it's not as good. And you can now explore, why are these tokens different, right? Which metrics has this other token so much better that it has a better rating? And this is exactly where now the alerts come in, because in the end, every alert is connected to a rating, right? Like some variable that we measure to give a rating is changing. And this is really empowering the users to ask the questions. Because in the example that Noach just gave, if you token, right, if there are people who, you know, say, okay, everybody's fighting Dana, but now they just see, oh, the Xerberus rating, which is not looking for FUD, it's not looking for Twitter sentiment, it's literally just looking for on-chain situation, just dropped by 3 ratings. What is happening? And then you could have explained it and see, oh, the the depletion rate of treasury wallets just made 3x, right? Like why is so much money moving out? And the tragedy really is that all the knowledge that we present in the report was there at the time, just nobody knew how to read it out in an efficient way. Like sometimes people get a snippet of it, right? Some people see one transaction going into a DEX, right? And then they say, oh, what's up with this transaction? Everybody's confused, but nobody sees the big picture. And this is really what we're doing is and this is what Daytaper, he's often uses this. He says the statistical methods, right? All transactions together from one statistical pictures of moving parts, and that's exactly what we measure. And this is what you can just see in a very, very simple dashboard, and then you can pick it apart, go down until the transaction level. So from big picture to small picture,
it's like an onion, right? Like, so the first and foremost, you go to our website and you see, is this token bad? Yes or no, right? And then you're going to ask, well, then why is this token bad? Yes or no? So then you want to maybe dig in a little bit more into the data and the metrics that we pull out from raw blockchain data that gives us these risk scores. And then maybe one of these metrics you don't really agree with, or you find them strange. So you can then take those metrics and go down to the raw blockchain data. We changed this metric because this wallet transferred this amount on this date. And it's just really important to, like, we really structure our ratings as like kind of an onion. Just what is it good? Is it good? Yes or no? Why is it that way? What makes it that way? When did this happen? And it keeps going down all the way down to the raw transaction layer and all these crazy spider graphs that we've been showing on earlier.
Yeah, and so
one last chill.
Yeah, go.
One last chill, and you get a very nice analytical tool, so where you can just explore wallets. Because we have been doing that for so long that I think when the tool that we create, right, like because we're using it ourselves, right? We are own users. I think you will love it because we love it, and we're using all other tools. So we just pick everything we really use and really useful in this Wallet Explorer as well. So you will love it, guys. I'm very sure of that.
Yeah, I look forward to being able to get my hands on it as well. Even for me, looking into projects or talking about projects or interviewing projects, it's something that I could probably bring up with different projects when I'm talking to them. And like, this looks at real data, so people don't have to trust. They can actually go and verify themselves. And like you say, sometimes one rating mightn't just fully fit another project for what they're doing, but generally there is a set rule on, like project funds, vesting, that it moves into one account, and there's certain flows that every legitimate project should have from a token perspective. Look, this, and for people who look at it and say, well, you gave it a really good rating, but the project still failed, that will continue to happen. In the real world, there are so many startups that fail, and they could try and do everything right and still fail. But this gives people a lot more of a chance to pick the projects that are trying to really do it right. So the more tools we have like this, the more transparency, the better we will be, especially going into hopefully another bull run next year. And there'll be a lot more new projects coming out. So the more tools we can have to analyze what they're doing behind the scenes, then the better. So I think if you guys have any closing thoughts, I'll give you the floor now.
One thing that is really important when thinking about Xerberus is that every ADA invested in a good project will pay off many, many years from now. Like every ADA put in a good project bears interest to all of us. Well, every ADA lost on a rug pull is just gone. It never comes back, the monetary value. And when we build about Xerberus, right, like Xerberus seems almost like it is a tool that we all can use to sharpen our ecosystem and build a better ecosystem. And if you, the listeners, think that's interesting, join our Discord server and help us, man.
Yeah, and I would just say, at the end of the day, like, you may have preferences to which is your favorite DEX, or we may all have preferences to what we like. For example, I really like RealFi projects, and Simon's more DeFi. But at the end of the day, we do need to have some sort of structure and system that we can all trust and we can all verify to be able to compare and look at the differences between these projects. Let's say I have DEX A and DEX B. What are the differences between the two? Why is DEX B less rated than DEX A? And these types of conversations and these types of situations allow us to have conversations that promote a more healthy ecosystem. Because at the end of the day, instead of just saying, I love DEX A, so no matter what, I'm going to defend it, coming with data and coming with real conversations and real looks at real data, you can really we can make a safer ecosystem, and we can force money towards the projects that are actually here to stay and here to build, and we can start like less supporting projects that are just here for the hype. And that's really what we really are committed to. Is we're committed to making this the structure that we can all rise together with. I mean, even though at the end of the day, like, we're going to be rating some people bad and stuff like that, right? At the end of the day, the intention is to make this whole ecosystem safer and more economical for us all.
Yeah, look, guys, thanks very much for your time today. Probably went on a bit longer than we planned, but went through a lot. Hopefully for people watching, they got the full story of what happened there with Ardana, where it is now, and there is still some funds there. I think making everybody aware of the wallet that's there. There's going to be a lot of eyes watching that wallet to see what happens with it. And anyone watching, if there is any further developments on this, you can be sure I'll bring them here. Subscribe if you're new, share it out to let others know. I'll leave the links to what the guys are working on down below, as well as the report, and ask any questions, and I'll put their socials together as well. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you soon.